Welcome back, everybody. Today we're doing a deep dive on John Elder Robison's audiobook, Be Different, Adventures of a Free-Range Aspergian.
Yeah.
And we're going to see what we can glean from his experiences as someone on the autism spectrum and how he took what could have been some big challenges and turned them into huge successes.
Just really interesting perspective, I think.
Yeah, and he doesn't shy away from the tough stuff either.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was looking through some of the excerpts you shared, and
Yeah.
it's pretty clear his childhood had some intense sensory experiences.
Right.
He says that clothing labels felt like claws to him.
Wow.
And it's like, how do you deal with that every single day?
It's such a powerful image.
Right.
And it really shows you how someone with Asperger's can experience the world so differently.
That's
It's something that most people might find, just kind of annoying.
Right.
But for someone on the spectrum, it's completely overwhelming.
Makes you think about those times you've been in a loud, crowded place.
Oh, yeah.
And you just need to escape.
Ugh. Yeah, for sure.
You ever have those?
Definitely.
We all have our own ways of dealing with sensory overload.
Yeah, and it's interesting how Robison learned to manage this early on.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of changing his surroundings, he'd shift his focus to something completely different.
So instead of focusing on, like, the scratchy label, he might focus on, the sound of the wind or something.
Exactly.
It's almost like he was rewiring his brain
Yeah.
to figure out a way to deal with it.
To find a workaround, yeah.
Do you think that kind of mental flexibility is common for people on the spectrum?
It could be. There's this idea of brain plasticity.
Oh, yeah.
You know how adaptable the brain is?
Right.
And we think it might be extra strong in people on the autism spectrum.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So maybe Robison shifting his focus is like an example of that?
It's a really cool idea.
Yeah.
It means that even when things are hard, the brain finds ways to adapt and even thrive.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really encouraging to hear. As he grew up, it seemed like music and electronics became like a safe space for him.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like it provided that predictability that maybe social situations sometimes didn't.
We see that a lot.
You do?
Yeah, with people on the spectrum finding comfort in those structured systems.
I see.
Almost like a haven
Yeah.
when the world feels too chaotic and unpredictable.
There's this one story he tells about a junior high dance,
Oh, right.
and he felt totally out of place with all the social stuff going on.
Yeah,
So he ends up backstage behind the amplifiers.
that moment of discovery.
What
He
happened?
sees the music visualized
Oh, wow.
in the vacuum tubes, and
Oh.
it just captivates him.
I can imagine all
Yeah.
these lights changing with the music.
Totally.
Maybe even feeling the heat from the tubes as the bass is going.
Yeah. It's all the senses,
Right.
but in a way that's controlled and predictable.
Yeah.
And that's where his future success starts, I think.
Oh, wow.
He goes deep into electronics, not just listening to music, but figuring out how it works,
Right.
the vacuum tubes, the circuits.
You get apart.
It's like his brain was made to understand systems like that.
And that intense focus,
Yeah.
which can be a big part of Asperger's, right?
Mm-hmm.
That actually becomes his strength.
Absolutely.
He went from fixing radios and TVs as a kid to making his own custom amplifiers and effects pedals.
It shows you how someone's strengths can come out in different ways.
Right.
What one person might call an obsession can actually be a sign of real passion and intelligence.
He went from being a high school dropout to a successful entrepreneur and innovator
Yeah.
just because he embraced what made him different.
It's pretty inspiring.
It is. So for someone listening who maybe doesn't have that level of focus,
Right.
what would you say is the big takeaway here?
I'd say we all have our own unique strengths.
Okay.
Even if they don't fit the usual mold,
Uh-huh.
it's all about finding those strengths and using them in a way that feels meaningful.
I love that. It's like that saying, find what you love and let it kill you.
Maybe not in such a dramatic way, though.
Of course.
Uh-huh.
But it's true.
Yeah.
Finding something you're truly passionate about can lead to amazing things,
Totally.
even if it's not something that's traditionally seen as successful or valuable.
It's about challenging those old ideas of what success looks like.
Right.
And embracing our own paths.
There's a part in the book where he decides to learn auto mechanics,
Oh, yeah.
even though he had no experience.
It's pretty amazing how he went about it.
Yeah.
He jumps into car manuals,
Wow.
just absorbs all this knowledge,
Amazing.
and then he gets a job at a Cadillac dealership.
No way.
Yeah.
And it's not just any job, right?
No.
He becomes their expert for anything electrical in the cars.
He was solving problems that even the best mechanics couldn't figure out.
That's awesome.
This is a great example of how Asperger's, while it might bring some social challenges,
Right.
it also gave him incredible mental skills.
Mm.
He could see patterns, make connections, and understand these complex systems in a way most people just couldn't.
It's like he had this natural ability to understand machines.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder how many other hidden talents are out there
Right.
just waiting to be discovered.
I think we often underestimate the potential that we all have, especially when we focus on what people can't do instead of what they can.
It's about changing that perspective.
Definitely.
Seeing the potential in different ways of thinking and seeing the world.
Mm-hmm.
And Robison's story is a powerful reminder that we all have something unique to offer.
It's a really important message.
Yeah.
Especially in today's world.
Where everyone's telling you what's normal or successful.
Right?
And he's saying,
challenge those ideas.
Yeah.
Embrace what makes you different.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that leads us to another interesting part of his story.
Okay.
His ability to learn new skills super fast. He talks about it like it's a superpower.
It's pretty remarkable.
Going from zero experience to being an expert.
Like that time he taught himself auto mechanics.
Oh,
and became the go-to electrical guy at the Cadillac dealership.
Yeah.
And then he does the same thing with digital engineering,
Right.
even though his main experience was with analog circuits.
What's the science behind that?
Well, brain plasticity that we've been talking about is a big part of it.
Oh, interesting.
It's heightened plasticity that we often see in people on the spectrum.
Okay.
It allows them to absorb and process information so much faster.
So it's not just about being naturally good at something.
Right.
It's about having a brain that's made for fast learning and adapting.
Exactly.
It makes me think,
Yeah.
what could someone with this kind of learning ability achieve if they have the right support?
The possibilities are endless.
Wow.
That's what's so exciting about neurodiversity.
Uh-huh.
Recognizing that different brains learn in different ways, and those differences can be huge strengths.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we've seen how Robison navigated the world with Asperger's
Right.
and some of the strategies he used to turn his challenges into advantages.
Mm-hmm.
But what about those who might not be on the spectrum?
Good question.
What are the bigger lessons here?
I think one of the most important things we can learn from him is self-awareness.
Okay.
Robison went on this journey to understand his own brain, how it worked differently, and how those differences could be both challenging and empowering.
So it's not just about knowing you're different. It's about understanding how.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
It's about recognizing your own strengths and weaknesses, what you tend to do, and what triggers you. And that kind of self-knowledge can be so valuable.
For anyone.
For anyone.
Wow.
Whether or not they have a specific diagnosis.
It's like having the owner's manual for your brain.
That's a great way to put it.
Thanks.
It's about learning how to optimize its performance.
Yeah.
And navigating the world in a way that works best for you.
Another key takeaway is about finding your niche. Robison found success by going after his passions for music, electronics, and mechanics, things that let him use his unique way of thinking.
That's such a powerful message.
It is.
Especially for young people.
Right.
Who might be feeling pressure to follow the traditional career paths.
Yeah.
Robison shows us that sometimes the most fulfilling and successful path is the one that embraces your individuality.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's about finding that perfect spot where your talents and interests match up with what the world needs.
Exactly. Sometimes you got to forge your own path.
Instead of following the crowd.
Yeah.
And Robison's story isn't just about individual success. It's also about never giving up and the importance of teamwork.
Perseverance.
Yeah.
He faced setbacks and challenges, but he kept going.
Right.
And he makes sure to say he didn't do it alone.
Oh, good.
He worked with others because he knew he needed different perspectives and skills to make his ideas a reality.
Shows how important it is to connect and work together.
Using each other's strengths.
It's a good reminder that even those of us who are more introverted or independent, we still need to reach out and build relationships.
We all have something to learn from each other.
Yeah.
And sometimes our greatest achievements come from working together toward a common goal.
It's like that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to go far, go together.
I love that.
And I think Robison's story really shows that he shows us that while being an individual is important, so is working together and learning from others.
Exactly.
So we've dug into Robison's unique experiences and his strategies and how he used them to succeed in a world that didn't always get him.
Right.
But there's another part of his story I find really interesting.
Oh, what's that?
his journey of self-discovery and acceptance.
That's such a key part of his story, and it's something we can all relate to whether or not we identify with Asperger's.
Right.
It's about figuring out who we are, embracing all of ourselves, and finding our place in the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh.
So one thing Robison talks about is how he handles sensory overload, which we know can be a big issue for people on the spectrum.
Right.
He tells this story about being at a crowded event, just feeling bombarded by everything,
Yeah.
the noise, the lights, all the people, just sensory chaos.
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Even for someone who isn't on the spectrum, those situations can be a lot.
Definitely.
So how do you handle it?
Well, he noticed something interesting. When a band started playing, his anxiety just went away. And it made him think back to when he worked on sound crews at rock concerts.
Oh, wow.
Like a light bulb moment.
He found his focus.
Exactly. In the middle of all the chaos, he could just zero in on the music and everything else disappeared.
Wow.
He calls it his Aspen focus.
Aspen focus.
This ability to really hyper-focus on something to
Okay.
the point where nothing else matters. And it's not just a random thing. It's a coping mechanism he developed as a kid.
Oh, wow.
And learned to use to his advantage.
So he basically trained himself to create this mental quiet space.
Right.
Even in the most overwhelming situations.
Pretty amazing, huh?
Yeah, and it's not just about tuning out noise either, right?
No, not at all.
He uses this Aspen focus to deal with touch sensitivities too.
Like those closing labels we were talking about?
Exactly.
He would focus on something else.
Okay.
Like the sound of the wind, or even like a mental metronome in his head.
Wow.
To block out the discomfort.
It's fascinating how he uses one sense to manage another.
It is. Makes you think we might have more control over our senses than we realize.
I wonder if this Aspen focus is something anyone can learn, or if it's stronger in people on the spectrum.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
There's definitely a connection to that intense focus that's often seen with Asperger's.
Okay.
But I also think it's similar to mindfulness practices that anyone can benefit from.
Like meditation.
Exactly.
Where you're training your mind to focus on your breath. And tune out all the distractions.
It's all about intentionally shifting your attention to something that calms you down or helps you manage those overwhelming feelings.
So maybe Robison's Aspen focus is like a supercharged version of that.
I think you could say that.
Honed over years of dealing with a world that felt too intense.
Yeah, a world that felt too loud, too bright, just too much.
It really shows the power of the mind to adapt.
Absolutely.
And create its own sense of calm, even when things are chaotic.
For sure.
Now, another strategy he talks about is his amazing attention to detail.
Oh, yeah.
He describes this almost like obsessive fascination he had with bicycle gears as a kid.
The bicycle gears. It's a classic story because it shows how something that might seem like a weird fixation can actually be a sign of some serious brain power.
He wasn't just riding his bike, he was taking it apart.
He was studying the mechanism.
Yeah.
Comparing different brands. Even feeling the gears with his hands to see how smooth they were.
It wasn't just about bikes.
No.
It was about understanding how this complex system worked.
That's something you often see with Asperger's.
Yeah.
This deep dive into the details that most of us would just ignore.
It's like he had X-ray vision for mechanics.
Right.
He could see all the little nuances, the differences.
The things that made each system special.
And that attention to detail became a big part of everything he did.
Yeah.
Building guitars, fixing cars, even writing.
It makes you think about how detail-orientedness, which is sometimes seen as a negative thing,
Interesting.
can actually be so important for precision craftsmanship,
Right.
even innovation.
How many breakthroughs have come from someone noticing a tiny detail that everyone else missed?
It's a good reminder to slow down sometimes.
Yeah.
Really pay attention to the detail.
You never know what you might find.
Exactly. And it challenges our ideas of what intelligence even means.
Okay.
It's not always about being quick or charming. It can also be about having that laser focus on the details.
Right.
The ability to see patterns and connections that others might not.
Now let's talk about this amazing ability he has to learn new things so quickly.
It's pretty remarkable.
He talks about it like it's a superpower.
Remember how he taught himself auto mechanics?
Yeah.
And became the electrical expert at the Cadillac dealership? And then he does the same thing with digital engineering.
Wow.
Even though his main experience was with analog circuits.
It's like he has this accelerated learning ability.
It does. It's amazing.
What's the science behind that?
Well, brain plasticity is a big part of it.
Right.
And this heightened plasticity that's often seen in people on the spectrum.
Okay.
It allows them to absorb and process information at an incredible speed.
So it's not just about being good at something.
Mhm.
It's about having a brain that's wired for super fast learning and adapting.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder what someone with that kind of learning ability could achieve
Yep.
if they had the right support and guidance.
The possibilities are endless. That's one of the most exciting things about neurodiversity.
What do you mean?
Recognizing that different brains learn differently
Right,
and
yeah.
that those differences can be huge strengths.
So we've seen how Robison lived with Asperger's and how he used his challenges to his advantage.
Yeah.
But what about for people who aren't on the spectrum?
Good point.
What are some broader takeaways?
I think self-awareness is a huge one.
Okay.
Robison really worked to understand his own brain, how it worked differently, and how those differences could be both difficult and helpful.
So it's not just knowing you're different, it's understanding how.
Exactly.
Got it.
It's about recognizing your own strengths and weaknesses, your tendencies, your triggers.
Okay.
And that kind of self-knowledge can be so valuable for anyone.
No matter who you are.
No matter who you are.
Wow.
It's like having the owner's manual to your brain.
I like that analogy.
Thanks. It's about figuring out how to get the best performance from it and making your way through the world in a way that works for you.
Another takeaway is about finding your niche.
Absolutely.
Robison found success by following his passions for music, electronics, and mechanics.
Yeah.
Things that let him use his unique way of thinking.
It's such a powerful message.
It is.
Especially for young people who might be feeling pressure to follow those traditional career paths.
Right.
Robison shows us that sometimes the most fulfilling and successful path is the one that lets you be yourself.
I love that.
Me too. It's about finding that sweet spot where your talents and passions match up with what the world needs.
And sometimes that means creating your own path.
Instead of following the well-worn one.
Right.
Yeah.
And Robison's story isn't just about individual success. It's also about persistence.
Absolutely.
And the importance of teamwork.
He went through setbacks and challenges, but he never gave up.
Right.
And he also points out that he didn't achieve success on his own. He collaborated with others because he recognized that he needed different perspectives and skills to bring his visions to life.
So it's not about doing it all alone.
No, not at all.
It's about connecting with others and working together.
Using each other's strengths to reach a common goal.
Even for those of us who are more introverted or like to do things our own way, we still need to connect and build those relationships.
We all have things we can learn from each other.
It's like that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Such a good one. And I think Robison's story really embodies that.
Absolutely.
He shows us that while being an individual is important, so is collaboration and learning from others.
So we've talked about Robison's experiences, his strategies for success.
Right.
And how he navigated a world that didn't always understand him.
Yeah.
But there's another layer to his story that I find really compelling.
What's that?
His journey of self-discovery and acceptance.
That's a crucial part of his story. And one that we can all learn from, whether we identify with Asperger's or not.
Right.
It's about understanding and accepting who we are.
Yeah.
Embracing all our strengths and weaknesses.
Absolutely.
And finding our place in the world.
You know, it's interesting how our idea of normal has evolved over time.
Yeah.
Like when Robison was growing up, Asperger's wasn't even a well-known term.
It's true. And words have a huge impact on how we see things.
Right.
Back then, he was just seen as different.
Yeah.
And that lack of understanding can be really tough.
Take a bet.
He talks about feeling like a freak. Struggling to connect with people and being misunderstood by teachers, even family.
That's got to be hard.
Yeah, it really makes you realize how important a diagnosis can be.
Right.
Not just for the person, but for society as a whole.
When we can understand something, we're less likely to be scared of it or judge it.
Exactly. Knowledge is power, you know?
Especially when we're talking about different ways of thinking.
It's like finding that missing puzzle piece.
Oh, yeah.
Suddenly everything makes sense,
right,
both for the individual and the people around them.
Robison talks about how learning about Asperger's later in life was like a revelation. It helped him understand his past, his strengths, his challenges, and finally accept himself for who he is.
And that's a message that everyone who feels different needs to hear.
Absolutely.
You're not broken. You're not alone.
Right.
There's a whole community out there, people who get it, who've been through similar things, and who are working to make the world more inclusive.
It's about finding your tribe, right?
Exactly. That sense of belonging.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Especially when you felt like an outsider.
And Robison's story really shows the power of community,
Yeah.
of connecting with people who share your way of thinking.
He's become a big advocate for people on the spectrum.
He has.
Sharing his insights, offering support, challenging how society sees autism.
He's using his experience to make things better.
Which is really inspiring.
It shows that even when things are tough, there's always hope. And you can always make a difference.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into John Elder Robison's story,
yeah,
what's the one thing you hope listeners will take away from this?
I think Robison wants us to look past the labels.
Okay.
See the person and appreciate what each individual brings to the table.
Yeah.
He wants us to embrace difference, not just tolerate it.
I love that.
And to recognize that neurodiversity isn't a weakness.
Right.
It's a source of strength, creativity, and innovation.
That's a powerful message.
It is.
It's about being curious and open and willing to learn from people who experience things differently than we do.
Imagine what we could achieve if we all embraced the full spectrum of human potential.
It's an amazing thought, isn't it?
It really is, and I think John Elder Robison would agree.
Yeah.
The world is a much better place when we celebrate what makes us unique.
Absolutely well said. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
It's been great talking about this with you.
It's been really eye-opening, and I hope everyone listening will take Robison's message to heart. Embrace what makes you unique and celebrate the diversity of the human experience.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Until next time.